say, 21 people have been buried today, unidentified remains. You can see over there where the graves are. They were brought from the Bucha morgue, where they've been held in frozen conditions for the last 4 months or so, whilst investigators tried to match up their DNA with DNA of relatives living in Bucha. But so far, for these ones at least, that's proven not possible. In the meantime, though, each grave is marked with a number so that if the investigation into the DNA comes up with some answers, the relatives will be notified and they can come and move their relatives or loved ones to graveyards of their own choice. But in the meantime, that's the way things remain. We witnessed the burial, very strange because there were no relatives here, just a group of journalists and representatives from the town council of Bucha, plus a priest who came to say the last rites over these bodies. It was important, he said, even though I don't know the names of those who are buried here, they are human beings nevertheless, and it's important that I should be here and give the last rites to them and say prayers over them. But you know, for all the people who are still grieving in Bucha, you know, it's symbolic of the terrible pain they're suffering since that massacre in Bucha back in March, when over 430 people were killed, many of them women and children. No closure for them as yet. They will be hoping that the investigations into the DNA will throw up some answers. In May, there was a French team here who managed to identify 17 of those bodies. But the Ukrainians themselves lack the sophistication of the French teams that were here. It's going to take them much longer, but they say they will eventually get there.
Well, talking of that investigation, Rob, how much progress is being made towards some kind of potential war crimes trial for what happened in Bucha?
Well, it's going to be very, very difficult, Nadia. The Ukrainians say they've identified over 16,000 cases. But it's one thing to identify a case and another thing to come up with sufficient evidence and then go further and actually manage to bring those guilty to court. Bear in mind that many of those people that we're talking about, who the Ukrainians regard as guilty, are still serving in the Russian army. Many of them in the Donbass currently, where they're fighting against Ukrainians. Some may have gone back to their bases inside Russia itself, where it's very unlikely they'll ever be brought to justice by the Ukrainian authorities.